Hey everybody, welcome to the Game Jam wrap-up from Unpub here at Metatopia 2021. We're here to finalize everything that's happened over the last 42 hours for some designers. We've got some other panelists here as well to talk about their experience and just help us, go through and kind of ruminate on what's happened this weekend. So why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? I'll start with Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack Rosetree. I did a panel yesterday on making trash games for love, and I make a lot of trash games.
Can I watch that? Was that recorded?
Yes.
Yes.
Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole Amato. I am Cardboard Fortress Games. This is my first time hopping into the Metatopia panel this weekend, and I love Jack's glasses.
I'm going for Linda from Bob's Burgers energy.
I love it. I love it so much.
And I'm Ben Begeal. I'm the mayor of Unpub. And, I was on the panel Friday at noonish. So we just want to, again, go through, quick recap of what happened Friday. And then we'll kind of, move forward from there. So, we talked about, the fact that this is not meant to have a fully fleshed out game necessarily. It's meant to be a way to give you some training wheels or give you a push in a direction, just to give you a prompt in some way, like you might do at 3 a.m. in a hotel lobby, just because you're all awake and you're, kind of punch drunk from the day. We went through some restriction roles. And so we'll go through those. Now we had a theme roll, and Danielle was nice enough to roll an obnoxiously large blue D6 for us. And we found that our theme must somehow involve history. We had a must roll, something that had to be included in the game, and we found that that must roll had to have a map in some way. Jack was hoping it had an exploding die because he didn't realize what exploding die meant in this situation, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And then we had some restrictions that we potential restrictions we put in place, and the one we put in place for this game was that you could have no turns. So it was an interesting mix, just to kind of give you some frame of reference to start building out your game. And then, Danielle and I spent the next 40 minutes almost just kind of spitballing ideas. Got really macabre because, the history went more towards war and serial killers. But again, you can go back and you can watch that panel if you want to kind of talk about that. But Nicole, what do you think about those restrictions? We were talking about it this morning a little, but.
Yeah, when I saw that list, I was like, well, how could you make an interesting history game with a map where everybody just takes their turns at the same time, right? Because there's no turns, right? So like a simultaneous, frenetic game that's also about history with a map. And I was like, how would that even work?
So what did you think about them, Jack? You actually submitted a game. So what did you think about those?
Yeah, so the no turns thing is a little bit I feel like it's more confining than anything else, because map covers, there's so many ways that can be expressed. The no turns things, especially when you're talking about like making a really simple game, like it's so easy to just slap turns on literally anything just to keep it organized.
Yeah.
And so that's the one that I was like, I kind of just was like, this isn't going to work for me. I'm just going to make something else and accept that it has turns. And I think I apologized in my submission. I was like, I broke this rule. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, we were talking about, simultaneous reveal games don't have turns,
right?
In that traditional sense. So that was kind of one of the ways that Danielle and I kept getting around it without it being straight up real time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we had some one versus many options and stuff like that as well. So it wasn't, it's because again, they're loose terms. Jack mentioned the map one and said, oh, the map is an old name for face. So I'm going to make a game about, okay, cool. Awesome. Were there any on there, Jack, that you were hoping would roll or hoping wouldn't roll? We had, for like theme, we had food, history, space, music, animals.
I'm always partial to animals. But the combo that I was actually really interested in was the exploding dice, which maybe I misunderstood, but I was assuming it was the if you roll max, you roll again exploding dice mechanic. And then there was a no dice rolling stipulation. I was like, I would love to try and design a game that simultaneously doesn't involve rolling dice, but when you hit your max on a die for whatever reason or by whatever mechanic, it explodes from there. And maybe there's some kind of like players are adding to each other's dice and you don't want to add that last point that explodes for someone because maybe they get way too many points, or maybe you just destroyed their part of the spaceship, who knows.
Wait,
I
okay,
love
that's also how I understand exploding dice. What
So
other?
the way we use exploding dice for a game jam is
Okay.
if the die rolls a 6, you roll that die twice for that category.
Oh, okay.
So we could have
Yeah,
ended
Jack,
up with.
I had the same thought you did, Jack.
Okay.
No, we explained that in person. But after the fact, because Danielle thought the same thing originally until I said it. I'm like, oh, an exploding die, which means we roll 2. She goes, oh, good, because I was wondering.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of RPG nerds. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so for our purposes, it meant we were rolling that die twice in that category, so we could have
Okay.
gotten some crazy nonsense going on. So were there? I mean, and so yeah, we actually, it happens where you can have one that doesn't involve, or you have to include dice, and you can't roll those dice. The player used them. Some of the designers used them as counters. So it counted life, or it counted resources and things like that. So
Sorry, guys, my camera just stopped working.
it's okay. We still love you. We promise.
Yeah, that makes me think of the game. I think it's Commit, but it uses dice, but the dice represent how advanced a particular technology is within the scope of the game. And you've got D4s, so if it's on the 4 side, you've advanced that technology all the way to the end. It's been a long time since I've played that game, but that was a way of using dice that meant something beyond just how much of this thing do I have. Like there was like a tier to it.
Katie, were there any restrictions that you, or any of those roles you were hoping wouldn't happen or hoping would happen?
So I didn't see what all the possible restrictions were, but just in general, I really love design prompts with restrictions because I feel like it forces you to go get all creative to like make something that works. I ended up making like a gerrymandering game, and I wouldn't have thought of something like that if you hadn't given me restrictions on history and maps and no turns.
Yeah. So why don't we take a minute here? I'm actually going to share my screen, and I'm going to share what you had submitted, the Google Doc, just because you actually submitted something that looks like, almost a PNP, and Jack submitted stream of conscious. So I'm gonna go ahead and share that because I thought it was awesome. I just want to spoiler alert. Let me scroll up. So Katie, why don't you take us through kind of your thought process with those restrictions and kind of how you came up with this direction?
Yeah, so when I heard the theme of history and maps, I was thinking like, okay, well, I want to make some sort of like a legacy game or something where the previous games inform the next. And I'm always interested in games from the context of like conflict in a like modern nonviolent sense. And so like my mind kept coming up with like gerrymandering and the way people carve out maps to like get their way in like political elections. And then the part that I was having trouble with was like the no turns aspect, which is how I end up with the like kind of roll and write structure of the game. So both teams will take a map of the same constituents and then try to draw their own gerrymandered districts, and then those same constituents will determine like which districts go which way. Like a slight fudge dice will be rolled for a little bit of randomness, and each team will have a chance to sway like one constituent before each election. And yeah.
And so you made some maps here too.
Yeah. They're based on the Essex region, which was like one of the first most like popularly well-known regions that were first gerrymandered. Like this is the region that there's a political comic of like the salamander, like dragon creature that's like all like weird looking.
I
This is
also want to
incredible,
say,
Katie.
I also want to say during the Trash Games panel, we talked about designers being able to talk directly to their players, and you having a salutations at the end of your rules that says, you know, thank you for playing. You know, I love it. I hope you really enjoy this. Like that direct communication. Like I love seeing that kind of thing in rules and in games.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think more people should do that. Also really like this line that I put in for the tiebreaker, like because the ties are supposed to be determined by the team that won last time. But if this is the first game I put, I guess the Nicklican party wins.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, it's
So great.
it's yeah. I'm not sure how much of that you caught, Nicole, but yeah, Katie shared with us, you know, her gerrymandering game.
I love it. It looks amazing.
How much time did you spend putting this all together?
I didn't have as much time as I wanted to
You
work
never
on
do.
this. So
You never do.
yeah, it was, so a lot of it was just like conceptually. Then I think I spent like maybe 2 or 3 hours last night just like putting down the rules. I even like printed out like a copy to do a quick solo playtest. I used to have you campaigning twice as many areas, and I was like, that makes it the map change way too much. But yeah.
Oh
I
man,
can't see it because of my background.
Yeah.
Katie submitted a play tested game. This is looking really bad for me.
Oh, I have a plan. I have a plan, Jack. Don't you worry. I have a plan. So yeah, so are you, is this something you plan to play with again, Katie, or work on, or is it just you feel it was more like I did it, I've done the thing, yay me, double thumbs
It's-
up?
To be very honest, it's way more the latter. Because these kind of games are not really my cup of tea. I don't I don't know if I'd have a lot of fun with this game, but I'm happy to have completed something.
I mean, and sometimes that's half the battle, doing the thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So-
totally.
So no, it's awesome, and I you know, like I said, you put in, you know, look, you put in some work, and it's, you know, it shows in these maps. You know, you gave us multiple copies, so we didn't have to print it out ourselves. We've got rules that, you know, have a flow. So now we'll stop sharing.
Oh, I
here.
missed the legacy part.
Yeah, so the results of this one could affect the next time we play.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, that's great. Great job, Katie. This looks awesome.
Thank you.
That was totally awesome. Now we're gonna switch to, let me pull this up. Here it is. All right. So Jack cheated. Jack submitted 2 submissions. We're only going to talk about
Jack.
one of those now, because the first one is, he said, game 1, thing I have that happens to already meet the criteria. We'll let Jack speak about that one in a bit. But I'm going to speak about Jack's second actual game jam. That's what it says in the submissions. And his title is, We All Dislike That One Passive Aggressive Cartographer. Number of players, ... One trader, ... One adventurer, ... One hidden object or secret thing, ... One sheet of paper, ... One writing implement, ... And if you see my hand doing this, it's because Heidi needs attention. So adventurer steps away, each other player, and here's where Jack cheats, taking turns, unfortunately, draws a circle, triangle, rectangle, or a straight line on the paper. Which thing they draw is determined by the player to their left. How they draw it is up to them. Non-trader players want to create a map or drawing which helps the adventurer find the object. Trader player wants to disrupt things and keep the adventurer from guessing the object. Points and adventure? A legacy roll and write, or a legacy write and roll and write game about drawing district lines in your dimension to win votes amongst dual-natured constituents that reside in both worlds. Oh, that's Katie. Sorry.
Yeah, that's me.
I was like, whoa, another legacy.
I stopped. No. So let's go back and pretend that we ended with points and adventure. So Jack, why don't you talk to us about? We all dislike that one passive aggressive cartographer.
Yes. So I have really in-depth notes for this that I wrote while the game jam session was going on. This is it. It says chameleon with maps. So if you're familiar with the game Chameleon, the idea is all the players know a specific clue on a board of words, and one person does not, and they're all giving clues to this thing. And the one person who does not wants to pretend that they know what they're talking about. It's a really good, like, kind of simple party game.
So is it like Spyfall?
I don't know enough about Spyfall to make the connection.
It's everybody gets, there's a hand of there's a pile of cards that are a specific location, and everybody gets that, but one person gets a card that says they're the spy.
Right.
And then you go around asking questions of other players at the table, and then try to determine based on that.
Yeah, it's probably a very abbreviated version of that, because I'm making a very quick gut check. So, like, for instance, like, let's say that the category is mythological creatures, and there's Cyclops, there's Unicorn, there's, Medusa all on the board, and I'm the trader, and the first person says, I don't know, animal. I might guess, like, oh, maybe the clue is unicorn. So I can either say horn and really lean into this and pretend like I know what I'm talking about, or I could try to vagify it up, and hedge my bets, and say, because it could be Medusa, and try to say something that's between the two. So my idea was take that mechanic but apply it to map making in some sort of way, and make all the players reliant on each other. So like let's go really simple. Let's say that the clue is puppy, and the players want to draw a puppy. The first player might be super helpful to the drawing player and say, okay, you can draw a triangle. And so, they draw a triangle, and that is our puppy so far. The next player might say, hey, you can draw a circle. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna put that circle right there. And now, this is definitely a puppy. But the last player might be the trader and say, okay, you have to draw a line. And now I don't know. Maybe all right. Like, I've managed to mostly keep it a puppy, and then the player after the last player is going to give them maybe I don't know, another circle. They want them to draw a second ear on this puppy, but I'm the trader. So yeah, drawing a circle would be great in that spot, but I'm going to draw a circle, I don't know, here, and now suddenly this puppy is I don't know. You tell me. But that's the core game loop. I don't know how well that would work, but it was a simple enough concept that I feel like I could go to a game night with some index cards and say, hey, we're going to play test the core loop of this really quick and see if it works. Certainly there's certain player counts involved, but the idea would be that you end up with this weird kind of shapely object, and the player comes back and tries to guess what it is.
Shapely object makes it sound sexy.
That's the
we all love shapely objects.
That's we all dislike that one passive aggressive cartographer after dark.
Perfect. This reminds me a little bit of have you played Fake Artist Goes to New York?
Yes.
Except it's the trader, and then the guesser are separate people.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, how long did you spend working on this, Jack?
I spent a few minutes. So during the game jam, I wrote my notes, and then over the course of, I'd say like the rest of the day, like over the next few hours, I just kind of let it like marinate in the back of my head, and then I jumped on the submission, and I just kind of stream of consciousnessed it, which I think is totally fair to say that. But it's a simple enough concept, and I love trash games. Like it's something I would like to minimum viable product, get it to the table like tomorrow if I could, see if it works, and tweak from there. The more time that I spend on this concept right now, the more time I'm probably just going to have to redo all of that later. So like my goal is just get something that's going to test the core game loop and see if there's something there.
Katie, did you have any feedback on we all dislike that one passive aggressive cartographer?
I personally really love the concept. I'd like to see it played out.
So yeah, so we for the with Button Shy with Jason Tagmeyer, there's been, he's done some wall of game contests over the years. And for the first one, we had a designer submit 10 submissions. And I know Nicole's played some of these.
Yeah.
And and so they submitted 10 submissions, and one of them actually Jason has published since then. But we come to find out after the contest, when I saw that designer for the first time afterwards, I was like, I can't believe you submitted 10. He goes, yeah, they were all just ideas. I hadn't play tested a single one of them before I submitted. So as fast as Jack submitted, I'm like, yeah, Jack just had an idea and threw it out there. Like, that was the feeling I got. I didn't know you had notes that said chameleon plus maps though. So
that's what makes it official.
I think something that I would like to see with this would be like an exquisite corpse kind of thing, where like you start drawing a map and you have like certain prompts you have to follow, and then you just like put like a little bit over the folded edge so that they know where the like outline of the map is, and then the next person you fold the paper and then they do the next part and they also have prompts, and then you see like what kind of intense things you've all added to this map.
Yeah, I love the idea of map making with a trader mechanic. Like, I normally absolutely hate trader mechanics, but I feel like this would provide that ability to, you're following the rules, but you are passive aggressively ruining things for everybody else at the table, sort of thing, which is how I came up with the title.
did you spend more time on the title or the design?
No, the title came to me as pure inspiration the very instant I finished designing the game. And part of it was that I was in on like just a general chat earlier, or maybe this was I don't remember. Somebody at some point referred to something as a passive aggressive dungeon, and I was like,
that came up during the panel.
Yes, that's what it was. And I was like, I want to design a passive aggressive a dungeon for D&D that just the players go into. There's nothing explicitly difficult about the dungeon, but the players just feel aggression towards them in the way that the dungeon is laid out, in the traps of the dungeon. And so I had the phrase passive aggressive like in in my chamber for something. And because I had this like weird trader mechanic, I was like, okay, like this is it. This is the name.
That's what it was during tea with Avi yesterday morning.
Yes.
Where it was like, you enter the dungeon, now you got to finish it.
Yes.
There's no leaving early. So,
I apologize, but I actually have to leave early.
No, thank you for joining us, Katie. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
for
Katie.
speaking about your game. It's
Awesome.
awesome.
Katie,
Thank
real
you so
quick,
much.
the game that you've been playtesting lately, is it okay if I talk a little bit about it and mention it?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but you're fine to talk about any of my games.
Okay.
So thank you so
Conviction.
much. Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you could totally talk about Conviction. Thank
Katie,
you.
how can people find you if they want to find more of your games before you leave?
You can find me at knifebunny.com. I'm also very active on Twitter as at Red Cheshire Kate, like Cheshire Cat, except Kate, and it's a red Cheshire Kate. But yeah.
Awesome.
I'm gonna look you up right now.
Thank you.
I know I'm already following you. So
awesome.
Safe. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. And then there were 3.
All right, I just followed Katie.
All right. Awesome. So it's I'm very much like you in the submission, Jack. I'm the idea person. I'm the silly idea person. The what if this? What if that? we may have lost Nicole again. Oh no, her head moved.
No, I'm here.
Okay, your
I
head
was
didn't
just-
move for a while. I was thinking,
I was looking at Katie's Twitter and it was so great.
okay, no stress, no stress. Like I'm the, that's just me. I'm, what if we made a game with Fibonacci scoring? What if we made a game where you roll dice to find out how many dice you roll, and then figure out how to turn that into an actual thing? But it's really just S posting in game design, and then I'm done with it. I'm not going to go do the homework. I'm not going to move on from there.
Oh, see, I do the homework afterwards.
Yeah, I know you do. That's the difference.
Yeah, and that's if I didn't feel like the stream of consciousness that I sent you still qualified as like something play testable, like even though I'm not there for it, I feel like somebody could read this and be like, all right, let's try and muddle through this. I think somebody could manage to play the game.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm excited about, is like, oh, like I think this is a simple enough, straightforward enough concept with enough depth to it that somebody could take this and really run with it.
Yeah, that's sometimes that's all you want out of a game jam. Like we said on Friday, we weren't looking for this is a finished game and we're hitting print on Monday. It was a lot of it, the expectation is that it's going to be that stream of conscious. So
yeah. It's also tough because there's a difference between like a game jam and then a game jam during like a convention, you know what I mean? So a game jam during a convention is a lot more challenging than if you're just doing like an itch game jam. That's like, you're not, your brain's not being taken up by other things,
Yeah, we did a game jam in person at Origins, where we had about 6 teams show up, and they, we rolled the restriction dice right there in front of them. We kept the restriction list on the front table outside the room all weekend long in case somebody else wanted to get involved. And then we had the panel on Sunday for them to come back. We had some people showing off in the 2 hours. They already had here's what we've got, here's what we figured out. Then we had somebody actually came back. They had actually spent time on it and play tested it and showed up Sunday to go through. And because they're the only one who showed back up Sunday, they won the game jam. But she had a great game. She had a great game, and she had play tested it. And she
Look at us.
Look at us.
It.
So
who would have thought?
And other people
Not
had
me.
good feedback, good questions.
Look at us. Look at
So
us.
what was the
Who would have thought? Not me.
Now I gotta go.
Look at us.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
No. I can pull up pictures. It's not hard.
So
Are you petting Heidi?
while you're looking for
Oh, no,
that
okay.
stuff,
Yes, while I'm petting Heidi.
So Katie's involved in the playtesting virtual Discord that I'm part of, and they just do some fantastic like kind of small games. The one that I played most recently, it's called Conviction, and it is it's a 2-player. You're in a relationship with the other player, and you can if you both end the game with the same score, then you win. But at any point, the other player could potentially kind of like backstab you to do better and take the victory away from you because it's just a little bit easier. And it creates this really like intense hostage situation within the scope of a having a relationship with somebody kind of theme. And
Right.
It is fantastic. I like if you ever get a chance to check out Katie's stuff, it's all fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love to play that. That sounds really fun.
So for that jam, our rules, the theme had to involve time. We did have an exploding die on that one. So the game must involve hand signals and paths. And you are not allowed to use real language. So those were the ones. I was in a car with Ian for 7 hours, and I made him come up with the potential options. So it was all Ian Reed ended up with a list of like 20 different things for each of these, and then spent the next day, like he pulled his notebook out and went to town, and then the next day he was paring it down to the ones that were actually going to make the cut for the game jam.
Right.
Wow.
So
yeah, he's an animal.
Yeah, but and that's that's what we want, is just what are the because you're going to come up with different things that may turn into something beyond this, but they might just end today. Like Katie said, it's done. I did it. I did the thing. It's there, but I'm not going to put any more work into it. So
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
deep respect for that, and that's again, talking about the trash games, like it is totally okay to be like, here's the trash game, it's done, I've slapped it together, I'm moving on with my life. Like, I did this art, I wrote this thing on this napkin, I don't need to do more.
It's out of my head.
I mean, one of the great things about game jams is that sometimes you're just stuck, right? Or sometimes you just need to like get the juices flowing. And sometimes a game jam is good for that. And one of the best parts about it is you don't have to feel an obligation to take that game anywhere else. You know, sometimes that just like dislodges a block that you had, you know.
And sometimes it may inform something else you're working on.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
you take this idea and you're like, oh, you know, like to Jack, your cheating entry, you know, it happened to already meet the criteria, but maybe you had a stumbling block in that you were trying to figure out, right? You could go back and you could, you know, revisit it because it met those criteria. So so you can use it after the fact in some ways too.
Well, and I think it's also something where we can see each other's creativity and take it as our own. There's, you know, I've got a good design that I'm working on that is intentionally like, it's a 2-player as complicated as possible game. It's got a chess set and a poker deck and a racetrack and a
Did
resource.
you design like chess, boxing, race car driving?
Oh, it's bonkers. And you know what? Like if somebody looks at one small component of this overly complex game and they're like, hey, I like this, I can use it for my other game. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. I've already got ideas from this weird game that probably will never see the light of day that I can use in other games.
Yeah, that sounds like a gauntlet. It sounds like an
My goal is that somebody will eventually say, hey, it's pretty good for a game made of problems. Which is a phrase I heard recently, and I was like, I love it. That is a design goal right there.
Is that like a mantra? I'm pretty good for a person made of problems?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but yeah. So do you want to talk about your cheating game at all?
Yeah, sure.
Just because it does meet the criteria.
It does meet the criteria, like exactly. And actually one of the reasons I submitted it is because it is a format that I think somebody else could take and run with for their own kind of thing. It is a 1-page choose your own adventure flowchart.
You mean choosable path?
Choosable path flowchart.
Oh, you're not allowed to say choose your adventure. Is that TM?
Yeah.
So I don't know, Ben. Did you happen to download it? Can you?
I did not
it?
know.
Okay, let me. Goodness. I will try to find it while I talk about it. That's definitely a good way of doing things.
I can message you the link.
Yeah, I can find the link. I have to go through the process of like downloading it because I don't know where it is on my actual system. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah, I didn't download it either. I wasn't going to reward you for cheating.
That's fair. That's fair. You still allowed me to get away with it with my game jam game.
No, that wasn't your game jam game. Was, you know, we found out there's not turns. It's a round.
Right. That's fair. Let's see. Okay, how do I?
And people have round parts.
Okay, so this looks
I'm
like
crawling through the catacomb, dragging on a bag of bones. Thought you said you wanted.
Oh my God.
So you start in the top left corner. It's 1993 and you're sitting alone in a hotel pool. You read through that block of text. At the end, it kind of indicates, hey, you can go down or you can go to the right. You follow the track. That leads you to another thing. And from there, rather than it just being like a straightforward flow chart, there's like, you know, teleporting from one side of the screen to the other. There's, you know, navigating mazes. Eventually you can meet a dinosaur. It gets kind of wacky, but
Jack, this is so rude.
if you download it, you can zoom in. It's not so bad. You should see the printed out version. It's rough.
Yeah,
Did you print this out on like a poster paper?
No, I printed it out on 8.5 by 11, and I handed it out at Gen Con for free.
What size is this font?
I could not tell you.
Did you also give magnifying glasses?
No.
How do you deal with where you can't read the text because the path is in the way?
So that part is intentional. You'll have to get there. You'll have to get there. But the reason I wanted to show this is, it's based in history. 1993 was a lot longer ago than any of us want to admit.
Oh yeah, I don't want to think about that. Please don't make me think about that.
It's a single player adventure, so there's no turns. And it is functionally a map. You are working your way through this. And I actually think somebody with a better background in graphic design than I have, which is to say any background in graphic design, might be able to do a better job with this. But I think people could take this and basically write like a choose your own, a choosable path flow chart as a way of telling stories that I think would just be absolutely great. I would love to see how people, take this and run with it. And I don't want to spoil too much if people want to check it out. But what I will say is you actually have to play this game twice to get the best ending.
What is this, a JRPG?
Yes, it is a Jack RPG.
Ah! Yeah, you're gonna have to send this to me, please, sir.
Okay, I absolutely will. But yeah, I felt like it fit your criteria, and I even had that moment of, do I want to sit down and try to make a second one in the time that I have for this jam? And the answer is no. This took me an incredible amount of tedious work to put together, but I love it. It is such trash in the best of ways. If anybody ever plays it and they want to tell me about it, it's great.
Somebody in the chat is asking where they can download it. So if we put the link in here, I'm sure Jim can get it up in the chat.
Yes, it's up on jackrosetree.itch.io. It's literally the very first thing there. It's the title is, it's 1993 and you're sitting alone in a hotel pool. The description is, it's 1993 and you're sitting alone in a hotel pool.
Oh, that image is great too.
It's definitely got, so the game itself was inspired by a YouTube synthwave, listen to this while you're studying 2-hour-long video, and I just took it from there. And I actually made this game for another game jam.
You're cheating on your game jams.
I'm cheating on my game jams with other game jams. So technically it is a game jam game. But yeah, I wanted to share it because I think it's a fun way of walking somebody through a story you really want to tell that allows them to make decisions within that scope.
When it's a different take on, map.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Nicole. Yes, Nicole. You need to say that out loud.
I said, is it polyamorous?
So that's great.
Oh.
Jack is polyamorous. So, yeah. So, Nicole, what, if you had those restrictions, because I know that you saw them for the first time, like, how might you interpret things like no turns and a map and history?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I was like, I think, at first I was like, well, I think simultaneous terms would be fun. Everybody taking simultaneous actions, can't say the word turns. Mm-hmm. So I think everybody doing things simultaneously would be cool. But I also am really into this exquisite corpse idea too now, where it's like, hey, we're trying to, like Jack said, what if we were trying to build like the most passive aggressive dungeon for a D&D game, right? And then what if we had dice and the dice had things on them like, trap or pond or, monster, like this is where monster goes. Like 3 of the sides of the dice would be monsters, right? So like you roll the dice and then you draw your part of the map. And then you just make sure that the edges of where you're drawing, because exquisite corpses are a little tough. So you like make sure that like at least the outline of the map is going on to the next part, and then the next person folds it and then they roll the dice. But maybe one person is secretly one of the adventurers, right? And so they're allowed to change some of the things, right? So instead of them putting down traps and stuff, maybe they get to put down a bunch of easy stuff and mess up what you're trying to do while you're trying to make this like really complicated, difficult map, right? So like one person's secretly the paladin of the party that's about to come in here. You know what I mean?
I would like a monster encounter chart in which all of the encounters are the monster walks into the room or you walk into the room with the monster. They say something that is a very undercutting compliment that's actually an insult about your shoes, and then the monster leaves.
I like that.
I think it's an interesting way of looking at the history too, right? Because it's not history in the sense of like the past, it's history in the sense of things that have happened. Because the part of the map that other player drew has already happened.
Right.
And I'm taking that and moving forward. And that's where, one of the things that came up with Danielle and I when we were going through this and trying to talk through some of the ideas was search history or text history. And so she kind of put together quickly in her brain a solo game where you're using your text history with somebody to figure out if they're cheating on you.
Ooh.
Oh.
It was just one of those things like in your brain you've got history, you've got no turns because it's solo, and it was just figuring out some of those and the map is like using like the GPS location in the where they sent it from to see where they were when they sent it, where they lied to you or something. But it's just it's using those terms in different ways.
I think that's brilliant, especially because if it's more than one player, they can like kind of interpret like you can come up with some ways that like they send a text that could be read in more than one way. See what I mean? And that would be like fun, maybe cathartic if you've ever been cheated on. Sorry, Jack, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. The thing my mind jumped to was medical history, which there's certainly a space for like, emotional games related to that. But I also think I would love to like have a chart of just weird things that turn out to be part of your medical history that make no sense and you now have to deal with. Something along those lines, or navigating. I mean, there's even like the forensic like CSI Miami, reading a character's medical history and trying to figure out what happened, sort of thing.
It's not lupus. Now there's so many different ways you can interpret, history or no turns or map, and I think that's where I like the way we randomly roll the restrictions instead of coming up with it ahead of time. It really does make it spontaneous. Heidi has sat down far outside of my sphere of influence. So she's waiting for pets that will never come. Well, she came back.
She's like, Father, leave the computer, please.
Yeah. So I think I like that part about it. I like seeing how people turn a name or spin something or spin that idea or come up with a definition that's different than like because somebody in the one that we did at Origins, they took path to mean choices, so the choices you made affected the rest of the game, and that was the path you took, as opposed to it being like a map path or like a roll and move type path. That's what
I wonder if you could do something with search history where like someone has disappeared, right? And you're trying to figure out where they went based on their search history, like their browser history. I just don't know how to remove turns from that.
Well, there's also Macro Micro, which has been wildly popular lately and is basically just a giant Where's Waldo, style drawing, and you're just like literally you're just pointing at the page and being like, oh, I figured this out. It's fantastic. It's but it falls into that scope of like I could not even imagine the amount of work that goes into trying to figure out how to draw this level of complexity into your map so that you can have multiple sessions of games over the course of however long
on one map.
Right.
Well, apparently we've got to play your game twice, so that's multiple sessions.
Yeah, looking at that reminded me of House of Leaves.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a book that is like buck wild. Like pages are written backwards, upside down. You have to hold pages up to mirrors sometimes to read it. You might have a footnote and it's like 20 pages ahead of where you are. You have to like search for the footnote. Like it's written in multiple different fonts. Like it's wild. You would like it.
Like I enjoyed making this game. I understand if somebody walked up to me and handed me a sheet of paper like this and was like, "Hey, like please read my adventure," I would look at it and be like, "Oh no,
No, thank you.
what have you given me?"
Is this size 6 font?
Sometimes.
I am too old for this.
I did have the foresight to put a link to my itch on the back of the sheet that's like, and every time I handed it to somebody, I was like, hey, if you need to zoom in, there is a place you can download a picture of it.
That's very polite of you.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job. Is there, I mean, going back to the list, I think it's, what if, what would you have done differently in your, passive aggressive cartographer game if, the restriction was that, you couldn't have shuffling cards instead of the no turns thing? Would that have changed the way you looked at it?
Well, since I ignored the rule about no turns, I could just ignore that rule too. But
Jack, you can't also cheat at the questions.
That's fair. No, I like when I'm looking at these kind of restrictions, usually there's like one or two of them that jump out at me, and for the maps was what really sung to me, and so that became my focus. And if I could make a game that fit the other things, that would be great. But if the no shuffling thing was what spoke to me and what made me really, really interested, I might find like some way to like rubber stamp the word map onto the whole thing. But otherwise, like when I'm working on this stuff, like I'm not playing game jams to do the best at them. Like I just want to see what kind of weird, funny game I can pull out of this. And I think, and that's why, like you asked the question, like, what were you really interested in, or what would you love to see? And the idea of a non-dice rolling game where the dice have exploding mechanics, like I would love to try and design around that space, because they rub against each other in a way that most people would be like, well, that's not even possible. And I would love to try and find a way to make that compelling. Because it's easy to make a mechanic that does a thing. It's not easy to make a mechanic that does a thing and people actually want to do it.
Right.
And a really great example is a while ago for one of the 18 card, I think it was for Button Shy. The game was the design conceit was all of the cards have to be identical.
Yep, I remember that one.
And I
interceptor.
Oh my goodness. And I looked at that when it was, and I was like, can I do this? And my brain shut down, and I was like, this is impossible. And emotionally, like I feel like it's impossible.
Hi.
Like intellectually, I understand it's definitely possible, like games can be made with these kind of conceits, but emotionally I was just like, this is impossible, I can't do this. And I was like, I was really excited to see the games that came out of it, because I couldn't even fathom like what you might do. Like I couldn't even like there was just this total blind spot in my brain in this design area where I could not figure out like how I would even try to approach the problem. Yeah. Well, and that's where you get some really cool stuff.
I think Ben knows this story. Anthony, every time he sees one of those contests, every time he would see one, he would be like, Tagmeyer's at it again. And like I told him about that one, and he was like, effing Tagmeyer, can't believe, why does he do this? And then 2 hours later, he like slaps a bunch of cards down on my desk and he's like, I made a game. I made a game for the Button Shy contest. And I'm like, of course you did.
Hate designing.
Yeah.
No, that kind of came out like Jason will always get games where like, this game is only 3 cards. You only need 3 different cards to play it. You only need 2 different cards, like In Vino Morte. 2 cards. 2 cards. Wine card, poison card. And
Yeah.
so Jason in his mind is like, well, I'm going to throw this contest out there because I feel it's impossible to do well. Like that was,
Right.
he's like, I feel this is impossible to do well. But from an economy perspective, a 1-card game you can throw on the end of a sheet. If you've got, 2 extra cards, well, over 9 print runs, you get 1 copy of that game. So it could be the,
Right.
the not the garbage game, but the efficiency game, the, using the extra space game, to make that game come out. So it's like 1-card game. And that's where it came from, was just like, I think this is impossible to do well. Let's see. And
Tagmire.
Interceptor won it, and just Tagmire.
Freaking Tagmire.
Yeah, it's some of that button shy stuff just came out of
Jack, your
game
face
jammy
is
type
so
things.
cute when you do that.
What-
You're like,
Sorry.
no, it's adorable. It's adorable.
So
My wife has to warn me before she turns on the stove because it blacks out my entire screen.
What? That seems unsafe.
It's not great. It's not great. But we're back now. She also wanted to make sure I didn't eat all of the bread in the house, which is a fair question.
ever or yet?
Yet.
No, I made French toast this morning, and we make French toast by the loaf. Like, I don't know how to make a couple pieces of French toast. We make a whole loaf,
That's fair.
and that's
fair.
it. Now
Yeah.
there's French toast for tomorrow and the next day.
Very adult.
The first time I heard about this was when Ben told us that the French toast loaf was made using cumin by accident.
Yeah, I accidentally did that once. Sometimes you
Oh
don't pull
no.
you pull the cumin out instead of the cinnamon.
How bad did that hurt?
Not very.
Yeah.
It didn't taste right, but we finished it, and it came out of Jack made a comment about we're adventuring with the food we're cooking, but you eat your mistakes.
You eat your mistakes. No.
I feel like there's definitely a space for a game that's like, all right, I flipped over a card, I got French toast. I flip over a spice, I got cumin. Let's see if we can make this work. One of the most surprising experiences that my wife and I had was somebody suggested putting curry powder on French vanilla ice cream. And it's good. It's good.
Did you hear
It
about
works.
that Van Leeuwen ice cream flavor that's mac and cheese?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Did
I've heard
Tuesday
from
not
some
talk
people.
about that?
I've heard from some people that it was disappointing at best and horrible at worst.
Tuesday got it and was like, not even like pepper helped.
Yeah, it was just like nope. But I have 4 pints of Jenny's in my freezer.
Oh, I had 10 pints of Jenny's and a pint of Leeuwen the other day, and now I have 6 pints of Jenny's.
The corner deli around the corner had close dated pints for $1.99.
What?
Yeah, so I have
That's a
Yeah.
steal.
Yeah, I was like, these are like $8 pints, and they were like, what? I'm like, yeah. But apparently, whatever distributor they got them through or whatever, close dated, good deal.
I'm thinking about doing the bougiest thing I've ever done, which is join Jenny's Pint Club, where they just send you 4 pints a month.
I approve, and I would like to sponsor your GoFundMe or Patreon, where you review these and tell us about the flavors you got.
I
and
would
what your-
absolutely review them 100%. Yes.
I've met you before. I know this. I'm looking back over like the restrictions and the musts and the themes even, and thinking about all the ones Jack actually hit, whether he wanted to or not. Like, Jack, you had no characters in your game. In theory, there's no verbal communication between players because they could just point at a triangle card or something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's no dice rolling and no shuffling of cards. There's, looking at the musts, modify at least 1 game piece. Well, is the drawing count as a game piece?
Hell yeah.
Must stand up. Well, you kick one person out, they've got to leave the table. Maybe they stand up to do that. They're building something as well. Obviously they've got the map, and then I don't know, you have to put dice in there somehow. But it could involve food. obviously there's the history of the map, the drawing being made. That drawing could be about space, music, or animals. So I think you hit everything. And I don't know if that's cheating. You're like, let me make one that covers all of these just in case.
By the power of incredibly open-ended descriptions of a game, I've hit quite a lot.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited to like sit down at a table and literally just be like, hey, like let's try this weird thing, see if it works. I think you could dial in some really fun stuff with this.
Yeah, and then get it to that next level. Yep. So I think we kind of we had a successful game jam. We got 2 submissions. There was a lot of discussion about it. I think it was really, really cool to have you and no, we didn't have 3. We had 2 valid submissions and honorable mention.
I was trying to squeeze that in while you were looking away doing your like pontificating, but you caught me.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for trying. I'm proud of you for trying. It's the halo.
You cannot fool the mayor. You cannot fool the mayor.
That's fair.
So as we wrap up here, is there anything you learned during this weekend that maybe you didn't think about, or a process you tried for the first time?
I mean, I've watched an incredible number of panels this weekend. It's such a packed schedule that I literally found myself at a couple points trying to listen to 2 panels at once. And I can do it for like maybe 10 minutes, and then my brain's just like, stop this now. But it's been great. It's not exactly design related, but one of the panels I found the most interesting was the one on the Paizo unionization, because it wasn't just here's the corporate stuff we're allowed to say out loud about this thing that happened. Like they really kind of like pull the curtain and talk about what it really looked like, and that was incredibly interesting to listen to. So if you're going to go back, definitely check that one out. The Data's In one, which was on racism and a number of issues going on in the industry, was fantastic. Problematic and taboo topics, also a super good panel. A lot of just really great stuff. People talking about really interesting things.
Awesome. So Jack, where if somebody wants to find you online, where can they do so?
Yeah, I'm Jack Rosetree, basically everywhere. JackRosetree.itch.io, and I'm on Twitter unsuccessfully. But you can find me. You can reach out.
Aren't we all?
Right. I have a lot of games up that are, free to play, or, pay what you want or whatever. Check them out.
Awesome. Nicole, where can we find you?
I am not very much on the internet lately these days, but on Twitter, I'm Toits, and I'm also CB4. And I think that's pretty much all I'm doing on the internet lately, but I'm trying to get back into the game design stuff. So.
And I can be found at Some Fat Kid. That's SUM Fat Kid on Twitter. You can call 1-800-BEN. In theory, it works. I haven't practiced it. You can also find out about Unpub at The Unpub on Twitter, or www.unpub.net. Thank you, Metatopia, for letting us host this game jam virtually. We hope to do it again in the future. Nicole, I will see you tomorrow.
Hell yeah, so excited. Woo woo.
All right. I'm bringing snacks. That was my chore.
Okay, great.
So, all right, everybody be safe. Enjoy the rest of your Metatopia. We'll talk to you all later. Bye.